Wonderful. It's a rainy day in New York, so it's an interesting day.
Yes, a rainy day in New York. And I think we are really happy to have you here at the Pikine Diaspora. And we know Atim's been really active in curating shows. You recently curated Bronx Africa, and now you are curating another one, which is called Amref Health Africa in the U.S.
Yeah, it's Amref Health Africa Art Ball, and it's both a event that is happening on Wednesday, on June 8th at Bleecker Street Hall, and it's also at the same time an online auction that is going on that will finish off at 12 noon on June 8th, and then will be an on-site auction at the Art Ball itself.
Before we go any further, can you please tell us about Amref Health Africa? What is it exactly about?
Amref is a African-based non-profit, and their focus primarily is looking at healthcare for Africans, but focused on training healthcare workers in particular. That is their specialty, and it started out in Kenya and has been based there for 60 years. It has a series of offices across the country. Most of its staff is 97% African. I'm working directly with the New York City office, and that particular office decided this year that they wanted to really sort of introduce Amref to New York in a different way. You know, most of their work is done in Africa, so nobody actually gets to see them in any way. Yeah. So the idea came up with the executive director, Robert Kelty, was at the Army show last year, and he kept thinking, we're an African-based organization, all our work is done in Africa. What other partnerships can we look at? And one of the first things he thought about was African artists as a possible partner for an auction and an event and really a ball, but it's not a general ball as everybody would imagine, but it's really about a celebration of the work of African artists across the globe.
And it's a really interesting organization because I happen to be in the offices. It's just like a gallery with all these beautiful pictures, and I got a chance to talk to Robert. Yeah. And then, it was a very nice conversation, and told me how widely he traveled around Africa, and then what they're doing in Africa. And we all know that the problem in Africa has two main problems, education and health. Yeah. And if we see an organization like this dealing with health issues in Africa, is something that we really should support. And you as a curator, so what's exactly your job, and how did you get all the artists involved in this event coming out?
As a curator, one of the first things I was asked to do was gather primarily only African artists, because I've had a lot of African American artists contact me in the process. What I wanted to do as someone looking at across Africa was to bring in, I would say, four different types of artists. Someone who's just beginning their career, somebody who has been working on their career, somebody who's established and sort of well-known, and somebody who's probably is a master. And so I sort of started to really explore who's out there, who do I know, what particular work would be able to generate almost like a full scope of what Africa does in different forms, different media, and really look at the countries that artists really come from, whether it's looking at Nigerian artists, whether it's looking at Kenyan artists, whether it's also looking at Ghanaian artists, artists from the Ivory Coast. So you get a more fuller flavor of what Africa is. I was so delighted that I have an Egyptian artist, Ibrahim Hamed, because it's, everybody doesn't think of Africa, as, everybody thinks West Africa as Africa. And I don't think, we need to sort of broaden the scope and have a discussion about what art means in Africa. So you get a range of work and a range of styles and a range of techniques. I was also very interested in making sure as a woman, I had women artists, because I think that's one of the voices that somewhat disappears when we talk about African art. But in that vein, the organization also decided that they would honor Wangechi Motu with the Reese Award, and Reese was the founder of one of the founders of AMRAF. He was a doctor, and what the three doctors who helped found AMRAF used to fly into parts of Africa where there was no healthcare and do surgery. So, it's just bringing together all of that as a conceptual element. It was also important to have artists who would actually decide and select work and create work specifically on healthcare, for instance.
And what I like about this concept is that it is like a good partnership with African artists. And when I was in the offices, I saw like packages that were shipped to the United States, packages from Kenya. And how did you get involved with all these artists?
Well, as someone called me an overnight Facebooker. I think the wonderful thing about social media is that it allows you to enter people's worlds in different ways. Over the last 2 years, I have been seriously looking at transitioning into full-time curatorial work. And in that vein, I have spent a lot of time just re-entering African art, because I grew up with it. And my mother collected. So for me, it was sort of like, okay, I have all this work around me. I grew up around it. I know a lot of the artists. Let me see who's doing interesting work, whose work, basically whose work would I want to collect, at the end of the day. I think for a curator, you really curate on that perspective, work you would love to have in your household, and work that you feel has value, and work that tells a story.
Okay, that's a very interesting concept. And is there like any difference between the work we see here, like the African American work, and the one done in Africa by Africans?
I think there are traces of similarities. I think that we as Africans and we as African Americans have the same contextual dialogue, and the dialogue is about who we are, what are we trying to say, what are the political conditions and social conditions in our different countries, what is my historical roots to Africa, whether it's through slavery or whether it's not through slavery, whether it's I was born there or I'm a child of an African parent. So I think we are connected but different. I think the context of being African and being a contemporary African artist is that I think some of the issues are we're experiencing colonialism, and African Americans have experienced slavery. They are polar, not opposite, actually polar. They're very similar, but I think the context of being in a country or being born in a country or coming from a country where almost everybody is black has a significant power. Whether you go to the hospital and all your doctors are black, whether you go into, your entire country runs in a different way because the ethos of power is people who look like you. So your sense of sensibilities are very different.
Okay, Atim, let's now talk about the auction. How is the auction going on right now, and how many artists do we have on board?
We have 33 pieces of art, and we have 31 artists. At present, as of, I think, yesterday, there were 11 pieces that were auctioned. The auction is actually on a auction platform called Paddle 8. Paddle 8 was chosen because it's one of the contemporary art auction houses, and they're based here in New York City. The event producer, Natalie Cates, has a great relationship with them. She has been using them for a good bit of time. It's my first time using them, and I'm actually very impressed with what we've had to do to sort of tell a story, you know. How do you tell a story about 33 individual pieces, and how do you showcase them so that an audience who is all over the world can bid on these particular pieces of work?
And Parallel 8 is an online auction, is an online auction like
it's very similar to Christie's or Brohan's or any other auction houses, but they started as basically as a, I would say, a funded company. They raised fund. There were two owners who raised money to sort of develop this particular company and brand.
And could you give the link to some of the listeners, because this is a very novel action that AMREF is doing, and it's worthwhile supporting this kind of organization, because whatever they're doing is for African continent and for African healthcare.
Yes, let me do that as we talk, because, I always forget that I have to always give links to things. All right, it's Paddle 8, which is PADDLE, and the figure 8.com, and it's you just have to either search for AMREF, AMREF. Okay, or you go paddle8.com /auction /AMREF.
Okay, to our listeners who want to bid on this auction, please feel free to go to the website and see what AMREF is doing, which is like a really important thing. Okay, and then on Wednesday, June 8th, there's something going on in New York on Bleecker Street. What is that? It's really yes.
Well, how do you sort of celebrate artists, and how do you bring together your community? You have a party, and you have a party that basically involves honoring your selected honoree, which is Wangechi Moto. You also have a party, and one of the board members who used to be the chairman is Carol Jenkins, and she is the main host of the event. The party begins around 7 o'clock, from 7 to 10 o'clock, and it will be at 159 Bleecker Street. You can also get tickets for the party. I think we still have maybe less than 30 tickets left. And it's at www.amrefusa.org. Okay, so it's amrefusa.org. When you get to the website, it gives you two options. You can buy tickets to the event, and you can also visit the auction. Basically, it's kind of a celebration of, AMREF as an organization and the work they've done. It is also a time to sort of build relationships with New York City and the community. And also for the artists themselves, there will be, 10 artists who are in the New York City area. A time to actually sort of see their work. All the work will be exhibited. There will be 4 pieces of work that will be at the live auction. We also have a auctioneer from Christie's who will do the live auction.
It's going to be a great event, and we rarely see those things in New York, like African contemporary art and auction.
Yes. The great thing about this, in sort of working on this for the last almost 6 months, I was able to bring in 2 major patrons to AMREF. Anatsui, who is the Ghanaian artist, and Dr. Massimiliano Del Nino, who owns a major gallery in Italy. He also donated about 7 pieces of work for the auction. I think I was very appreciative, and I think AMREF was overwhelmed by that. We also had partnered with Art Africa, who is the media partner, and Amazing Magazine, who's also the media partner. as well as Soul Adventurer, who is based out of Nigeria. I think it's a series of organizations, entities, and corporations working together for Africa, and I think that's it's a fabulous idea.
And then AMREF is not only based in Kenya, but they have branches all over Africa, and they even have one in Senegal.
Yes, they do. They have one in Ethiopia, Senegal, and they also have some in Europe and Canada that I'm aware of.
This is like a really a novel thing, because when I went to the offices, I was really impressed by how organized they are and how beautiful the offices are, and how like really they involve and the health issues in Africa. And this is something that should have been done by African government. Now it's being done by this kind of organization. And as people in the diaspora, so we should really back them up and support this novel idea.
I appreciate it. And you should also mention that your work is up for auction, Ibu.
Okay, and my work is an auction over there, and there are two other artists, Claude Comis, who is a New York-based artist, and we have also Soli Cisse, whose work is also involved in that
yeah.
And we have the great Papa Joe from Ghana, right?
From Ghana, yeah. I was so delighted. I reached out to him about maybe about 6 months ago, sort of expressing an interest for him to donate a piece. And he kept, he sent me several different pieces because he makes all kinds of miniatures. And I kept saying I don't quite know if I want a coffin to help represent healthcare. It was some of those kind of conversations. So around March, we finally, had a long discussion about creating a small miniature piece that is dedicated to healthcare workers, primarily on, how they help solve the Ebola crisis. So I had to sort of send him some images about, all the different healthcare uniforms that were worn during the Ebola crisis. But I think, it's one of those kinds of projects where you have a deep respect for the artists and their creativity and their genuine interest in helping an organization when it comes to healthcare. The other artists that created work were two others, in particular for healthcare, was Medric Touré, who is out of Ivory Coast. He did a painting for women and children on healthcare. And then Michael So out of Kenya did one called The Doctor's Visit, which is what everybody, across the world should be entitled to go see a doctor. And I think that was sort of, for me, I want to thank all of these artists. I also want to thank a lot of the staff at AMREF. I think we all sort of, this is the tail end of the project, so we're all excited, we're exhausted. But we are essentially grateful, and we hope all of you who are listening, if you can't make the event, still donate to AMREF. This is one of the largest and oldest health organization. And when you deal with Africa, healthcare and education are sort of where we should be putting our dollars right now.
And I think we also have a great respect for you, because you've been doing a lot about African contemporary art in New York, and this kind of shows our things we see in museum, because you succeeded in having artists from North Africa, from West Africa, from North Africa. It's like a great thing, because this kind of artists never thought of being in a show together, and you like really showing like real contemporary African art in New York.
Yeah, I'm interested in showing what Africa is heading towards and has been for the last, I think, 30 to 70 years. I think that the notion of what Africa is for anyone on this side of the world is, what television shows them. They don't see the other parts of Africa, which is, to me, you see it in the work of artists, and the diversity of the work you see is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this once again illustrates the idea that the Africans should tell their own story, and they think the story should painting, should poetry, should through everything, and now you bring it back, you bring it here in the United States through IMF, through A-M, how do you say it again?
Amraf.
Amraf. It is something that we appreciate. Atim, so what's your last word?
What's my last word? Well, come on, bring your dancing shoes. Also bring your checkbook, because I think you should all come out and on work, because, it's a party, but it's a party with a cause. So, just come and meet the artists. A lot of them, usually it's the work that speaks for them. A lot of them will be coming to the event, and it would be nice to actually meet some of them, have some great food, and have some fun and meet the staff of AMRAF, and also begin to plan. This is, it was an organization that has its heart in the right place.
Okay, once again, can you give the address of where the party is going to be and the link for those who want to be on Federal Aid?
All right. The AMRAF Art Ball will be June 8th, which is Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm. It will be at 159 Bleecker Street. You can go on their website, which is amraf.org, amrefusa.org, to get tickets. Also on that site, you can also go, and from that particular site, you can go and visit the auction. The auction is at Panel 8. It's paddle8.com /auction/AMRAF AMREF /.
Okay, hello, Sam?
Yes.
Hi, Ibu, yeah.
Yeah, so you just heard what Atim said about the things which she's going to organize. So last word, and we're going to put it up.
Yeah, wonderful program. We thank Aki very much for coming to share her thought, and her things she's doing for the community. And what she's doing is a kind of bridge between, blacks here in the United States and Africa, and we need that for the development of our communities. So Ati is a real asset for the community, and we wish her good luck and hope to see her again here on the radio.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ati, have a wonderful day.
You too. Have a